Regina is unique because the four predominant gangs are largely made up of Indigenous males.
I was heavily involved in drugs and selling drugs.
Now you know why we go to crime! And we made these gangs because no one is gonna hire us.
Girls are out there selling their ass to feed their families.
There's been murders, there's been stabbings.
I'm a changed person for the rest of my life.
Most of the crime is still happening in the North Central neighborhood.
You're in a situation where you could get shot.
Was the Regina Police turning into a military organization?
Absolutely not.
This is North Central Regina, and it's one of Canada's most dangerous neighbourhoods, where Indigenous gang violence is on the rise and the police response is matching it. This community is caught in the crossfire. Our team at the Fifth Estate asked a pretty simple question. We asked, why is there so much more gun crime happening? Why? And it brought us here to North Central. It's a conflict with deep roots, but some alarming new dynamics that we want to dig into in this special edition of the Fifth Estate.
Girls are out there selling their ass to feed their families. Boys are out there fighting and ripping off cars and beating up other people to go back and feed their families.
Beyond the headlines about gangs and drugs and guns, there's some surprisingly hopeful solutions.
We dealt with the same thing in Boston. It was during the crack epidemic, if you will, in most major cities. We went from 152 homicides down to 31.
The real miracle was not so much the kids stopping the shooting, but it was really the adults who were able to come together.
And people determined to take back control of their community.
So we're moving into a new beginning here. And I think everybody feels it. And where my healing began was when I started asking myself these questions. You know, what can I do to help this problem?
So I'm going to take you through the North Central community.
But we're dealing with a gun call here, okay? So I want you back.
Next thing, I seen cops there, and I seen cops there, and I seen the traffic going around, okay. And then all of a sudden, get in your house. Oh, okay.
There are four main street gangs in the city. Meth makes them so much more volatile, so much more unpredictable, and so much more violent. And the prevalence of firearms is at record levels for us. It's very concerning.
Get out. Get back. All of you. If I have to tell you again,
Oh, I'm getting out of this neighborhood. It's enough. It's enough of this.
You know, in Regina, we talk about the two real drugs that drive, I would say, our crime rate are meth and cocaine. In the last 4 years, our cocaine problem has increased by 75%. In the last 4 years, our meth problem has increased by 2,100%. Way across the country, each province looking for a pilot. And so when I heard that this province was looking to do a pilot, having these senators
And so where are we headed now?
We're going to meet members of our gang unit. Yeah, come on out.
I've been a cop for 11 years, and this is my 4th year in the gang unit. You see the rise in gun violence as opposed to knives. It's just changed. It's crazy.
Just before 9, police were called to a residence where they found a man dead from gunshot wounds.
The shootings, the homicides, the home invasions, whether it's of a different gang or just wherever, it's just, to me, that still kind of boggles my mind. So.
Police were investigating a recent firearms offense and determined their suspects were in this house.
Our bread and butter is talking to people and gathering information and intelligence and working through that process.
What the plan is for tonight?
Well, we have an individual in mind. Our information is he's been causing a number of problems within the city, within the gang community and the drug community. Our task will be trying to locate this guy.
Okay, well, see you. Have a good night. Okay, thanks. Okay, see you guys. Take care. Good luck. See you. Thanks. We just passed a vehicle, and I don't know if you noticed the driver. So as he drove by, he did this because he doesn't want me to identify him.
One of the things that struck me is that it's a small number of people who are doing a large number of the crimes.
Many of our officers know all of these guys. Sometimes we need to take swift, immediate action, and we need to hold offenders accountable. But it's much more than that for us. We need to understand where they're coming from. We need to understand what's motivating them, what's fueling disputes.
How do people in this neighborhood feel about the police?
They don't feel good, that's for sure. Kind of grew up on this block right here too. On this block, around here, this block. Well, I was born and raised here in Regina, North Central. I'd say maybe 11, 12, you start to see that kind of stuff going on all around you, around here anyway.
Caves.
Living in this area, you know, you gotta be able to fight. Walking out the door, going anywhere, you know what I mean? And so, to me, that was just a way of life. It was normal. It's just a matter of time before you get involved in the drugs, right? And doing them, and you're around them enough, you're gonna get addicted, right? I'm always gonna run into somebody I know is gonna be like, oh, hey, you know, what's up? It's been how long? You wanna do this, that, right? And it's hard for me to say no. I was thinking about that the other day. There's a lot of close friends I have that died even just recently, you know, and drugs, violence, you know.
You know, the issue that we struggle with is the rate of repeat offending in our city. We hold offenders accountable. They're back out in the streets with little to no supports, and we're back chasing them again.
Okay. Some of you guys got something wrong, very, very wrong. I listened and I paid attention. But the thing is, none of these gangs would happen if their first resume was picked and they got the job. They keep on getting rejected. And now you know why we're all on welfare. Now you know why we go to crime. And we made these gangs because no one is gonna fucking hire us.
A 26-year-old man was found dead in North Central Regina this weekend.
Now police have 4 people in custody in connection with the city's first homicide of the year.
I heard that it could have been related to initiation. They were all kind of fighting on the side of the road, and he took a knife, and she said she seen Josh's hand go up, and he stabbed through his hand. And she said it looked like a knife you cut meat with. He stabbed him in his back on his left side and dragged it across 4 inches. And at the corner of the street, he dropped and she seen all the blood. So she called 911 and she was screaming and screaming. And I found out afterwards that it was gang related. North Central is a lot of territorial. Different gangs can't cross different gangs' lines. And so if you're wearing the wrong color and you're around on certain gangs' territory, then it's a problem.
There's been, through the years, things that have happened that have cast a shadow on this neighborhood and has really, I think, caused the neighborhood to rally together and come together to fight that.
We all know when you talk to a gang member why he joins. It's identity issues, it's a sense of belonging, and those are all things that have been taken away from us through colonialism and through oppression and systemic racism.
I was a part, when I was 16, 17, I was a part of a gang as well. I know that I was looking for that belonging and that sense of acceptance. I understand. The reason why White Pony Lodge exists is because a young kid walked into a party with the wrong colors on and got stabbed. And so there was a public outcry for the violence that had happened. And so that's how White Pony Lodge got created, right, in response to that. So that was gang related. The sage is to purify our minds, bodies, and spirits, so that when we go out to patrol, we can be clear-minded, focused, and present. Okay? Yeah, let's go. Thank you.
Okay. Who's doing what job? And
Denver would like to be one of the recorders. All right, let's get out the door. So we'll start at your alley and then work our way down.
Perfect.
Watch your feet, Letitia. None of them have got caps on them.
Use our uncapped needles out in the open. Being out in patrol, being able to pick up some needles and save some kids' lives potentially. Yeah. Please. North Central, for me, it's my people. And that's not just First Nations people, that's like God's people. Like, we're all in this together.
Oh, that stink is getting me now. 80 so far. 80 needles so far.
There's a lot of pain, and a lot of people are lost here. Drug addiction is an epidemic here. There's missing and murdered women that are going missing from these streets right here where we're standing. They've gone missing. Little girls have gone missing. There's been murders, there's been stabbings, and it all happens here in North Central.
Needle!
I'm a survivor of the 60 scoop. I was in 9 treatment centers before I got clean and sober. It took me 40 years, right? On my 40th year, I got clean and sober, and my life is just beginning. I'm able now to truly care and give back with my words and with my actions and my feelings and my prayers and my presence here. Yeah. What's your boy's name?
Jason.
Oh, Dre, boy, you're handsome.
Mama's boy right here.
Yeah, cruising around with Dad. Boy, that looks fun.
Yeah,
Aw. Right on, well, it's good to talk to you. Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. I really want them to feel as good as I do and know that there's hope, not ever to give up. Oh, right on. Thanks, brother. There's definitely gangs here, and that's a social problem. But you know, for me, I see those men, those young men, as young kids hurting with no family, coming from foster care, being raised in foster care with no family, with no mother or father to love them or to guide them. And so they look for that in other people that have the same situation and same feelings, same lifestyle that they have. That's what I see, you know, in gang members. So this has been a really great night. We got a lot of needles.
You had a comment, sir, or a question?
I grew up here in North Central since I was 9 years old. First of all, it is a highly tensional racist place amongst both sides, my side and theirs. And the other thing that I seen sweep across was the meth epidemic that everybody's talking about. And the question I want to know is, what motions are being set to battle this epidemic?
This again, I'm not trying to maneuver away from the question, but this is another public policy issue, and it's something for our elected officials.
Just on systemic racism, you know, opiate addiction wasn't a problem until, you know, young white kids were showing up on their doorstep dead. Then all of a sudden it was a problem. We had been dealing with it for a long time in communities of color. So that's part of systemic racism.
We also need to understand that it's not an either or type of thing. It's a both and type of thing. You've got to deal. You've got to deal with those structural issues that has brought the community to where it is, but then you also have to deal with the cultural phenomenon that has us, you know, killing each other.
Initiate.
After the break. How much force is too much force?
Can you give a handshake with it when you have an armored vehicle?
I think we need to focus on the good work that's being done there, but recognize that every once in a while we have to be police officers.
Regina police are investigating an early morning standoff.
A male, possibly armed with a firearm, approached a house in the 900 block of Athol Street.
Yeah, I think it's this one right here, where the backyard, where it happened, yeah. We heard the loud bangs. And then we couldn't handle the tear gas anymore, so we smashed the window and jumped out. And that's when they had us all surrounded, and then I think that's when they took that picture. It was in the backyard. Up until that point, I was just kind of nobody. And so when you become a part of that, it feels like, you know, that's everything to you, you know? And you don't want to lose that. So the more you get involved, the more you kind of lose yourself, who you are. You get beat down, right, by your bros for showing love, they call it. I guess for me, I was kind of used to violence growing up in a, you know, alcoholic home around a lot of violence. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I haven't thought about that in a long time. There's stuff like that that's, you know, just crazy that you never think, or you think it's normal, people go through that. And it's not.
There is definitely a high level of crime in this area, and our street gangs are playing a part of that, but the number of firearms in our community is definitely something that we've seen on the increase. And when we talk about even the number of attempt murders that we have recorded this year, I often talk about the fact that that's because fights and disputes are being settled not with fists but with firearms, and firearms have a different outcome and a different consequence than someone who's getting into a fist fight.
Were you involved with assaulting people?
Yeah, I got a pretty lengthy record that shows that, you know. Yeah, I was heavily involved in drugs and selling drugs and, you know, the whole drug lifestyle.
Have you asked someone to kill someone?
No, I wouldn't say that, no.
No. What about commit other violence?
Yeah, you know, I have to live with that now. You know, I live with that regret, the pain I caused people.
Probably half our work is an armed and barricade where it's a patrol responded to, whether it's a weapons call or a shots fired that we respond to. And then the other half of our work usually is serving high-risk warrants where we believe that suspects are usually in their narcotics trade or are armed inside a residence.
Hey guy. Initiate. Stop the gun! Stop it! Suspect down! Holster and fix it. Ready!
So there are shoot and no shoot scenarios. So every time our officers go on any sort of tactical call, a lot of times there's lots of suspects within that residence and they have to make split-second decisions. You know, with the ever-changing landscape, we have come across more firearms within the city.
One suspect in custody.
Now with his vehicle, we can safely pull up in a safe situation. Also, when they look out, they see, okay, the police are here. You know, I have nowhere to go. I'm surrounded.
Occupants of the house, this is the Regina Police Service. Keep coming, keep your hands high.
A couple of years ago, I was in our armored vehicle when we were actually shot at. We can pull up in this and use it actually as a big shield. Coming up to 15 years with our SWAT team. You know, we weren't deployed as much when I first started. There's actually a time where we went 18 months without a call for service. This year, we're at 29 already for the year.
So you're busy?
Yes. It's tough on our families. You know, your phone rings, you're talking to whether it's incident commander saying, yeah, shots have been fired. Your wife hears that, and then there's no way she's going back to sleep until you give her that call or text saying, yeah, everyone's safe, everything's good.
Okay, guys, let's go clear that room. Ready? Move.
And then that way the community can get back to their everyday lives that they're living.
Clear. Clear.
You talk about the separation between being in a car and the community. I mean, I wonder what the separation is when you have a carbine rifle and an armored vehicle. Is Regina's police force, you know, turning into a military organization?
The reality is we work very hard to be out in the community, to be professional, to be approachable, to be the opposite of militarization.
Can you give a handshake with it when you have an armored vehicle?
I mean, 27 times that you talk about that has been deployed this year. As opposed to what I always talk about is hundreds of thousands of contacts in the year with our frontline officers. And I think we need to focus on the good work that's being done there, but recognize that every once in a while we have to be police officers.
I'm part Sioux, Dakota, Cree,
Nehewak, and Soto, and Anishinaabe. Like, I'm a teacher, I act, sometimes I write. I'm a father, first of all, though, hey. I grew up in Regina. I heard a lot of racist comments growing up. You know, I'm still healing from that.
A Regina man complained police used excessive force when they arrested him.
And all of a sudden, he got out of his car over here. I knew that there was something up, and I tried to keep walking. And I was about to go into there when all of a sudden his partner, another person, came from over here. He was so fast I didn't even see it. And he came up and he just all of a sudden pushed me into the wall. And all of a sudden I was like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden they were just taking me over back this way. And their cop car was, like, this is the cop car. I hit this part. We went back a bit and I just kept like that, eh? And then he's like, eventually he's like, get in the car, and he threw me in to the back of the car, and then I hit my head back there. He treated me like an animal, like a dog, really. Stuffed me in there.
Now the Public Complaints Commission has finished its investigation. It found the officers overstepped their powers but stopped short of calling it racial profiling.
We're accepting responsibility. I am as chief. I've apologized to the complainant in this matter.
Is they're looking for someone who stole a TV. But they're talking about all this description. The only description I had was this: my skin color. They're never gonna say they're racist. They're never gonna admit to that. General public, they know that that's the truth.
Something that is an overlapping theme of what we're talking about today is systematic racism. On behalf of the police force, what is going on? What is happening within the police force to overcome and attack the issue of the institutional problem that is coming about?
I've never shied away from the question and the notion of racism. And does racism exist? We always have work to do. We brought in a professor from the First Nations University over the last couple of years and have done what I think, in my 24 years of policing, is the best cultural training, Indigenous cultural training, that I've ever seen. You're right. Right now, we aren't collecting stats on how many Indigenous people we stop and talk to.
Is it something that's going to change?
You know, I can't tell you that it is, but I think oftentimes change comes about because of public will. And I think that's something that we would look at.
When we come back, a solution that stopped gang violence in its tracks in Boston.
We could not believe that what happened was real.
And a community inspired.
Why is it so inspiring?
Because we can do that here. There's absolutely no reason why we can't do that here.
We're not just here to talk about problems. We want to talk about solutions as well. We've got a couple of special guests here from Boston. Next to me here is Police Chief Bob Murner, who is the former Boston police officer. Reverend Jeffrey Brown is still a reverend in Boston, and both our guests are here from Boston, and they've come all the way to Regina. I knew you'd give them a good Regina welcome. When we started to think about solutions, we came across a program in the United States called Operation Ceasefire. And we wanted to show a short documentary about Operation Ceasefire, what it is, what the experience, because Regina is not the only community in Canada that has a gang problem. And are we okay to start it up?
When I first came to Boston to be a pastor, I had family members and friends warn me, be very careful. Stay in the communities of color because it's a very racist city.
The relationships with the African-American community and the police was deteriorating quickly. We were kind of like shoveling sand against the tide, and it was like, nothing's getting better, it's getting worse.
And we set up with especially the Boston Police Department and others. And very quickly, they taught us that the violence was extraordinarily concentrated among people whose names they knew.
We're tired of seeing kids buried. We're tired of the violence.
We are here to tell you that if the violence doesn't stop, we will be bringing the full authority of the government down on you. But we also were delivering a message that if the violence stops, there are other options for you.
It was literally unbelievable. We could not believe that what happened was real.
So we hope you enjoyed that piece, and it gave you a good place for us to start our conversation.
Well, when I was watching the documentary, I was just like, all of these ideas were just like, boom, you know, like, you're such an inspiration, you know, and I think that's something that we could do as well as a community.
Why is it so inspiring?
Because we can do that here. There's absolutely no reason why we can't do that here.
And you know, the beauty of all of that is that you're me and I'm you.
Yes.
I mean, I was looking at that film and seeing myself with black hair. And, you know, never in 35 years that I thought I'd be in Regina, right?
Yeah.
You know, having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I was a young minister doing these funerals of young people, and something needed to be done about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, like you know, I got out there. There are people in this audience who are thinking the same thing. And my advice to you is don't think, do.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Coming up, the truth about a gang murder that rallied a community.
And why was Josh wearing a red shirt that night?
Could something like Operation Ceasefire work in Canada?
Absolutely. I think that there are principles that underlie our efforts in Boston that are translatable. I mean, I've been around the United States in large, medium, and small cities, taking those principles, and they've morphed into, you know, what was appropriate for their community. And so I would say yes, absolutely.
Does arming up, that situation where the police start arming up and then you start having this crossfire, I mean, what happens there in that situation?
We made those mistakes. I mean, and we put SWAT officers, we put plainclothes officers, we put a heavy police presence. You don't build any trust and relationship that way, and that was something that actually worked against us. And we, you know, working with Jeff and other members of the clergy, working with probation, we realized that the heavy hand wasn't it.
What I like about tonight is we're having that discussion again. So what I'm hoping today is it's part of the mobilization process, that we take what we learned today and said, let's do something about it. Let's engage our friends from Boston, let's engage the police, and let's have that larger conversation.
The only thing that I'll say about that is when we looked further at Operation Ceasefire and its applicability in Canada, we looked to the experiences of other jurisdictions and how they considered it, where they thought there were challenges in implementing it. What you two gentlemen were involved in is nothing short of inspiring, and I'll steal Letitia's words. It's an inspiring collaboration, and there's many things to gain and to learn from that. So it does cost money. We need funding that's what I want to say about that.
If you had the funding to be able to build the collaborations, to really put the meat on the bones of relationships, and to build something like Operation Ceasefire, would you be willing to do it?
Well, I think absolutely. We funding, I think, is what becomes the talk that we speak to when we're talking about levels of government and how we're going to do it. It's not going to be a straight line to success. There's going to be stumbles, but that takes time, and that takes a lot of energy, but a lot of resources.
If I can just speak to that, as it started to get successful, the mayor bought in. Then both Reverend Brown and I got to meet on numerous times with Bill Clinton and with Janet Reno, and once the success started to take place, they started to fund us as opposed to the other way around.
If you build it, they will come.
It's exactly.
I think you need somebody with really good vision, right? To see what that looks like as a whole, right? And then put their ideas to the people that can help them, right?
A challenge is that, that saying that goes, people change when the cost of not changing becomes too great.
And why was Josh wearing a red shirt that night?
It was a shirt my mom bought him, and it was just, he wore blue, he wore red, he just picked that shirt to wear that day.
And that's what got him?
Yeah. Investigators that were doing the investigation, that is when they told us is that Josh was not in a gang, and Josh didn't know these people have no clue who Josh is. This was a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it ended up being that 4 were actually arrested. And 3 of them were youth and 1 was an adult. I actually ran into one of the youth's mothers just recently, and I called her over and I told her who I was. And she immediately started crying and apologizing to me, hugging me. She wouldn't let go of me. And she was telling me how she didn't raise her son to be that way. She was shaking, like she was very genuine, and I could feel it. And it felt so good for somebody to finally say sorry to me.
I would really appreciate it, Medicine Dog, if you could sing us out with a good song.
Yeah. Hey, hey, oh, ah, hey.